Todd, Kelley, this is our first actual digital conversation, and I think it's appropriate here that we're in a little studio. We're in director's chairs, and I feel like we're in an appropriate setting to start to talk about digital media and digital literacy and digital fluency, because we're very digital right now. So,
Paul Chilsen, welcome to the library.
thank you. Right.
We're in this nice little studio, but we have to mention that we are in one of the most used facilities in the Hedberg Library at Carthage College, which I think sort of speaks well to Carthage's interest in the future.
Right. I think that's a highly valid point. I think that when Carthage built this library, they really did take I think a bold step forward. You know, what was it, a decade ago?
Yes,
Or, yeah,
just
just over a decade ago, into really putting a foot forward to start to have the facilities available at a small liberal arts school to instruct students in the direction of media, digital media, you know, film, television, screen journalism, all of those kinds of things. But I don't think it's just that, and I think it's changing.
If I'm not mistaken, it was probably about the same time that the CDM department was created. You're currently chair of that department, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Could you tell people a little bit about CDM?
CDM stands for Communication and Digital Media. As you probably know, it's the youngest department at Carthage. A few years after I joined, you know, the department started, I joined them shortly thereafter, and a few years after that started, you know, the Rosebud Institute. And it really, the Rosebud Institute is something that's charged with the idea of the fact that we really need to be teaching, I think along the lines of what you're saying. We really do need to start to teach media, or media literacy, if you will, in a way like we teach writing and speaking. You know, with the Rosebud, part of the Rosebud mission is we live in a world of spoken media and written media and now screen media, if you will, and we need to start to teach people how to operate in that world as well, in a very specific and educated fashion, just like we do in other disciplines.
Right, and to me, media literacy is a lot like knowing how to read and how to get inside the text, and not just look at the text superficially, but to sort of get into it and deeply into it. But on the other hand, media fluency is how to create your own text, if you will, by putting together all the components that are available to people today through the technologies that everyone can use or potentially use to communicate, and to communicate in the most meaningful way.
There's two parts of what you were just saying. Anytime we can give a student, the latter part of it is anytime we can give a student the opportunity for us to instruct them or give them the basic tools to do something that has a connected, meaningful output, that it's addressing something that an audience is going to see, that they understand that there is an audience, any of those kinds of things. All of those undertakings, I think, are highly valuable. They run antithetical, it seems, or taking that approach runs antithetical to, I think, a lot of things that do end up happening. You know, I sent you this piece this morning, a screen grab from a local public library. Now they have different, recognizably, they have different, you know, workflow and protocols and the things that they have to address, but they have, and I think we can go to the that image that we have, but they have purchased all these iPad minis, and if you look at the text in that particular promotional piece that email that they sent out, it's talking about giving the iPad minis, basically just handing them over to children and saying, play, draw, all those kinds of things. Now that has value, but it's not attached to any instruction, or like your Wikipedia example, it's not attached to any sort of intentional output. And I think that idea of intention is really key. We need to separate from the entertainment mode of the screen and envelop it and encapsulate it and embrace it, if you will, as another mode of communication. It's not any different really than teaching a kid how to push graphite around on a piece of paper, and then eventually start to make things that make meaning. That's very important, but it has a specific intention, and we need to have intention in the things that we're doing.
One of the aspects of managing the library is sort of being able to look to the future and sort of think about how to transform the library in a regular way and in an episodic fashion that is able to keep up with the students as they see the world today, and also to anticipate how students will need to learn tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we've been doing is we've been involved in a campus-wide exercise to look at the library. It's a great library. It's only a little over 10 years old. Mm-hmm. And we've certainly been very blessed to have this library, but we're not sitting on our laurels. What we're doing is thinking about the kinds of things you and I have just been talking about in terms of the kinds of support and the kinds of space, the kinds of relationships, the kinds of resources, both technical and knowledge resources, we make available to our students, faculty, and staff.
Students come in under the communication digital media, the CDM department, and they take one of our majors, and so they have to go through these things. But nobody else is really required to do so across this institution, and I think across the academy. And one of the things I think we need to look at is that perhaps as a core requirement, if we're sending people out into a screen-based world without some basic understanding of how to communicate in the language of the screen, if you will, I think we're sending them out a little bit unprepared.
Unprepared,
yeah,
absolutely.
And I believe that you make an excellent point earlier. In communication and digital media at Carthage, students are getting that. How else can we get that information to a broader audience? And how can we make it in a way, how can we make that happen in a way, as many people in academia know, how can we make that happen in a way that it's embraceable by the other disciplines? And that's important.
And in fact, that's exactly right. That's one of the challenges that we in the library have taken on, because the library is central to the campus in so many important ways, both physically, it's in the center of campus, and it's the center of the academic enterprise. And what we'd like to do is focus on this issue in such a way so that every aspect of communication in a digital media environment is taken into account here in the library in terms of what we do, our support, our understanding of what those needs are, the resources that we bring to bear. It's a tall order.
I think one of the things that digital media fluency can do is give students permission to be creative, to use their creative thought processes to express complex notions, formulas, ideas, ideologies, sway, rhetoric, persuading, all these things that they can do in a new way, I think, can be embraced rather than, shunned.
Yes, certainly we don't want to put anyone in a box, in the digital media box. So having a sort of a large welcome mat in the library. So some people have put forward the notion that the library should be about creating scholarship. And certainly scholarly communication is important. We have no argument with that.
Right.
However, it's one strand of the whole communications web that we all live in today, and the information fluency and information literacy are just as important in other types of communication. So
Right.
students are involved in social, cultural, co-curricular, all kinds of communication exercises. And to be able to support them, whatever their digital communication needs are, is, again, a tall order. But I think it's one that is, while we'll never quite get there, perhaps, I think it's one to strive for.